Welcome to the Across the Bar podcast, where we talk about why today's headlines are important to your success at work. My name is Peter Rahbar, and I should be your first call on legal issues.
And I'm Laura Brounstein, and I should be your first call on content and comms. And Peter, I'm liking the glasses on you
Thank
today.
you. Yeah, it's something different. I tried to take them off, and you wouldn't let me. So
Yeah,
here we
no,
are.
it's like bringing it up a notch. I felt like I always have mine like on and off as I'm
Yeah.
throughout.
Yours, yeah, they definitely come and go, but I try not to be too distracted by it. I'm just going to keep mine on.
You try not to
mind.
be too. Well, I shouldn't feel too bad about it, though, right? I shouldn't feel terrible about distracting you in that way.
No, not at all. I'm more upset at you in that we talked about pre-show having a cocktail because we're late afternoon. I brought mine, which is a Guinness, and you didn't bring one. So
And you feel that this many centuries old drink is trendy at the moment.
I'm told it is trending. I have seen people ordering it more than usual in New York's very crowded bars. And
Is that just because it's low carb? Isn't it a low carb beer, naturally?
Yeah, I believe so. It also happens to be delicious.
It's
Maybe
like
that's it. And it's a good winter drink. You know, winter you want like
heavy.
a little warmer drink. So if you're a Negroni drinker in the summer, you might want to go for a Boulevardier.
You know what I had last night that was so good? I never had before, a paper plane.
Oh, I make excellent paper planes
Do you make them with bourbon or gin?
with bourbon.
Very good, very good.
Yeah, delicious drink. I agree.
Oh, good. That might be I'm not usually a pink drink kind of girl, but that was delish.
Well,
So,
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I had a very fine martini at the newly refurbished King Cole bar last night. And
you went to the Waldorf.
no, the one in the St. Regis.
Oh, was it nice? Fancy?
It was wonderful. I think the holidays are a great time to drink in hotel bars. That's my take for New York. If you come to New York for the holidays, go hotel bars. It's cool. It's great.
Have you been to the Portrait Bar? It's so pretty.
It's one of my favorite bars.
There we go. Of course.
There you go.
There you go.
Great hot dogs.
Oh, didn't
They
know
have great
that.
hot dogs. Yeah. Little
It's so
known
fancy
secret.
in there. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. All right. So what are we talking about?
We're
today?
going to talk about
other than booze.
how sexy do you have to be for a good job?
Oh boy. Okay.
In person is coming back, and it's the youngs that are fueling it.
Right.
AI and the job market, and LinkedIn. How much is too much? Which I think is a very good question. Okay, so you forwarded me this article about, or did I forward it to you? That now that things are more in person, and everybody, it says the headline of the article was being hot is now a job requirement. But the article seemed to be more about when you're looking at yourself all day, you're obsessing more about what you look like, not what other people are looking like.
Right.
So
I think it's it's an interesting question. I thought it was funny when you sent me the article because the title is definitely misleading. Being hot cannot be a job requirement. Let's be clear, except for very few jobs. There are actually jobs where potentially it could be a requirement. I mean, if you think about cover models for magazines.
yeah, if somebody gets fired from a
something like
modeling
that,
contract because they're not hot, is that legal?
Well, I mean, it has to be a legitimate business justification for that requirement. Otherwise, I would say you totally would want to stay away from that in hiring because it could lead to a lot of different harassment and discrimination issues. Certainly discrimination in the hiring context. That shouldn't be a requirement for anyone's job. So let's just put that to the side. But that's not what the article was about.
It wasn't.
It was about how people are, from their days on Zoom, et cetera, and the amount they're looking at themselves in their screens, steps to either, start GLPs or facials or face work or, cosmetic surgery, how that's become one of the, I don't know, side effects, probably not the right word, but side effects of returning to the office is that, people want to look better and feel better about themselves in the presence of others now that they're not behind screens.
There are so many social media trends with names now that the snatched face, the this, the that everybody is obsessing on. I saw an article on New York Magazine's site today about mid-facelift. Like when people think their mid-face is too big, and they would be
Wow.
cuter if their face was more squished. And there is something they
Squooshed.
do to make that happen.
Squooshed is a legal term, right?
Squished. Yeah.
Squooshed. Yeah.
But by the
Well,
same token, you and I worked in magazine land, as we've discussed, for many, many years. And we were definitely being judged on what we looked like. Not so much what your face looks like, but how you put yourself together. Like, if you
right. And I worked a lot with broadcast TV, and that's a legitimate, business interest is how on-air talent looks for the on-air talent, like how they dress, their appearance. It's something they're constantly coached on and evaluated on. So in that type of job, it's certainly a factor. But look, in the regular day-to-day workforce in regular offices, certainly people are concerned about what may happen to them if they're perceived as old or, things like that. And so they're again, that's illegal to judge people based on age. Okay, let's be clear about that. But people have these concerns, and now that they're in person, they have them even more. And frankly, it's something I've heard a lot about in discussion, around the city with clients and friends. I mean, it's definitely something
feeling pressure?
that people notice. Yeah, people feeling pressure themselves, but also noticing others, who have taken
Stepping up.
steps to, improve their. And I've certainly been at cocktail parties recently where like no one eats. Like it's amazing. I'm just taking down full trays of cocktail franks because no one else is even touching them. They're all on GLPs. It's great.
all the food is left for you.
All the food is left for me. And the trend, I mean, I was at a party the other night. I mean, there was so little food. I was like shocked. And then I was like, oh yeah, these are all Broadway people. They're all like, everybody here is on like some sort of GLP situation.
Yeah.
So
That's probably true. But you know what? I don't know. I feel like professional New Yorkers have always been obsessed with how they look one way or another. It takes different forms at different times. But we are not a city that shrinks away from vanity.
yeah, I
Would you
mean,
say?
definitely not. We're probably like us in LA, trendsetters on that. Not me, personally. But there are studies out there that say, people are like better looking or whatever, have more success at work. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I mean, I've certainly seen.
I wonder if it's
examples
more
where
true for
not true.
women than for men. There was also an article in New York Magazine, it was very good this week, about, it just hit today, I think, about how the first time people start to feel old is 44.
Really?
Yeah. And the elder
That's so
millennials are about to go off the age cliff and be old.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
welcome, everyone.
All right. Well, I'm way past that cliff.
Did you think that you had like a moment at 44 where you're like, am I old? I don't think I did.
I was still in corporate life. I definitely didn't think that. I mean, I talked to people who are entering their 40s, and like really that's like a prime, earning and working zone, 40 to 50. And then, I hit 50 last year, and I just kind of felt freedom from that, frankly. And so like some people feel that, some people don't. But 44 is an interesting one. I mean, it's very
Right?
random. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure why. Okay. All of that, as we were talking about more IRL, there was an article this week that the youngs are the ones saying they want to go back to the office. And you have been saying for a long time how important it is for the youngs to go to the office more than older people because they need to learn and make friends and just learn how to be a person in the world.
And announce themselves, like let everyone know who they are, right?
Yeah.
I would say this in my discussions with executives and clients, like this is, whenever we talk about return to office, this is like the first thing that comes up, okay? And so seeing this article was very affirming to what I've heard anecdotally, which is the problem is not getting young people into the office. They come into the office more than anyone else. They live in small
It's still hard to get them in 5 days a week.
Yeah.
I
Correct.
agree with you. Like 2 to 3 days a week, it totally works. The 5 days a week, the youngs start being like, it's cloudy, I can't make it in.
Right. So people want flexibility,
Yes.
but they also want to be in the office. And they don't want to sit in their little apartments, and they don't want to eat their, as we discussed, $22 Chipotle bowls. They want the free food. They want the social interaction. They want some career path. I would say 4 days is the new 3 days. Okay, how about that? Like that seems to be the trend. Everybody's going to 4. And
In my experience, I think 2 days in a week in the office makes a huge difference in cohesiveness, morale, productivity. I think more than that just makes people annoyed. But obviously, none of the big companies feel that way. So,
well, you got to do what's right for you, what's right for your company. Be thoughtful about it. Be clear when you're announcing this type of change, why you're doing it. Give people time to adjust. It's not
yes.
like next week we're going to this policy.
So what are the legal ramifications around companies that told people, yes, you can move and it's not going to affect your job, and then they change their work policy and it does start to affect people's jobs? Like, what are the legal ramifications on that?
I mean, there's not many legal ramifications for companies in that situation if they took the right steps to, announce these policies. And in most cases, a company would say, well, this policy is subject to change and could change at any time and it's not guaranteed and blah, blah, blah. And if you were smart, like I always have a conversation with executives I represent about location. And and it should be specified in a contract. And if you have some special remote or flexible schedule, should be specified. If you're, planning to
Like,
move.
don't just say, yes, gentleman's agreement. Like, you should have
Right.
it.
Yeah, it should be specified. And then if you're senior, if your location's changed, then it's a trigger for severance, right? That's how I would ideally
Then it's a trigger
set
for
it
what?
up. Severance. To get severance, to trigger like a good reason termination on your side.
Are companies
from-
usually open, or had they been open to that?
Again, to very senior people, they would. Or to someone who's in a recruiting battle, maybe they would, I would say less and less they're open to it now. But just changing a policy generally, most employees are at will. So the company makes a policy, they change it. I've worked with a lot of people now who are at Paramount who were asked to move. And, they didn't really have a lot of recourse to push back on it. And some of them are like, I'm going to move. I had a good 3 years in Wyoming, and now I'm going to go back to New York or LA, wherever they're based. So,
I see.
So I would say it depends on the contract. It depends on the policy, and there could be different answers to that.
But to your point, and from the internal comms part of it, it just is be as clear as possible and understand that every side deal you make undermines what you're doing at the company.
Right.
Like,
and different employees will have leverage in these discussions. Like, so someone who's remote and now you want them to come in and they have to switch cities and the city you want them to move to has a higher cost of living. Well, if you really want that person to come, I think you should make an effort to address the salary and address those issues or address relocation costs. Mm-hmm. And if someone's valuable enough, that conversation will happen. And if not, then the severance conversation will happen.
Right. But don't you agree that it's kind of a problem? Like, every place I have been, there have been so many side deals with people.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, she is here every day except for Tuesdays. Or like, everybody has like a side agreement.
It's not ideal to have that. I mean, it could lead to other issues like who has the side deals? Oh, all your buddies have the side deals. Other people don't. So companies are generally reluctant to do that unless it's something that's, absolutely necessary.
Yeah. We're also going to talk about who is in most demand, and nobody will be surprised to hear that the people in most demand right now are the people who can set up AI processes for companies. And I think an important thing to mention is if you are just sitting home, like doing your shopping list and your, randomness on ChatGPT, that does not make you an executive that people are going to vie for. It's not just using it well. You have to be able to you have to be somebody who has the understanding to program it and make it work for the corporate needs.
Right. So I think the article specifically talked about AI strategists at companies that are not necessarily AI focused. Like, how do you help companies figure out what the hell to do with AI and how to make their employees more productive, et cetera. And we've talked a lot about these mass layoffs for AI. I don't see that as happening yet. They could happen in the future.
There's a
Mostly
lot
because
of layoffs.
there are definitely a lot of layoffs, I think, for very different reasons. And if you listen closely to economists and people who look at the job numbers, which have been really soft lately, most of them are still related to the fact that there's economic uncertainty and no one can actually forecast what's going to happen next year with the economy. And there was some hope that we would have some more clarity by now, but recent developments have sidetracked us on that. So, if you're a senior and you're an AI strategist, like that's apparently the hottest job on Wall Street right now, helping the big banks, do those jobs. AI prompters, we talked about this before, people who formulate the prompts, like they're very valuable. Just learning the skills and being an AI influencer, that's huge,
How do you become an AI influencer?
How do you become an AI influencer?
Like, you mean just talking about it a lot?
Well, I would say, what you want to do is experiment with how it could be helpful to your own job. And then when you figure that out, share it with your managers and show that you're comfortable with it, show that you care about it, show that you're enthusiastic enough about your job that you're doing this instead of just using ChatGPT to like trade stocks or, diagnose yourself, your medical condition or whatever. So you're bringing value to the company. That's nothing new. It's just a new tool that you're helping them figure out, because a lot of companies are still, the biggest barrier to AI adoption in companies is just figuring out like where it would be useful for companies. So if you could help them do that and help others get comfortable, you're a very valuable person all of a sudden.
I also think it's really important that companies are clear with their teams where and how they're expected to be using it. Because I think a lot of employees, if companies aren't clear, they're like, I don't know, am I allowed to use AI to do this? And it's like, it's not a school exam. You just have to get your work done.
Well,
and
I think you're totally right.
In terms of like, you can do this kind of work on public AI, but not this kind of work. It's I think people are being murky about it. And one of those articles talked about they don't want you to use AI on your application to jobs where you would use AI, which makes no sense.
No, I think it makes sense. I mean, I think part of it, part of what companies are trying to fight, and I've heard stories about this that are pretty wild. They're trying to prevent people from using AI during interviews. So like interviewing someone over Zoom, they could just easily be sitting there typing prompts in to figure out answers to the questions you're asking them, and you're not getting a good gauge of how smart they actually are or how good they are at making decisions or identifying issues.
What's the answer to that? Just have IRL interviews?
Absolutely, 100%. And that's coming back. Fine, do a couple rounds on Zoom, but then bring people in and interview them in real life with no computer in front of them and see how they do. And I've heard stories about that where like someone has progressed through the couple rounds and then they come in and they're presented with something and they just can't answer it. Yeah, they can't answer it. So I think it's important. I mean, and a few months ago we talked about companies
what's interesting? Blue exam booklets are coming back in high school and college. Because for years it was like everything was typed on laptops, but there's no way to be sure they're not using AI. Whereas if you are longhand writing something, it's harder.
I mean, the mere like act of receiving my blue exam booklet, just the amount of stress that gave me growing up, it's so unbelievable. Like,
do you have good handwriting, Peter?
No, I'm frequently told that I have shitty handwriting. Maybe the producer of this show has told me on several occasions that I have terrible handwriting.
Miss Sadie has told you that?
Yeah, she's right.
Does she have good handwriting?
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. But it is. Look, I mean, some old school stuff's really coming back. Like handwritten notes. I mean, they should have never gone away, right? But I think we're seeing a resurgence of that stuff.
I think with a lot of things, anything that makes it easier for you to connect, don't overthink it. Just use it and connect. Like if you're more likely to engage with a text than a call, text.
Right. But going back to the interviews, I can't even fathom the reason why you would hire someone without anybody meeting them once in person.
Oh my God, I've hired so many people with just
for like a serious job. For a serious job.
I mean, C-suite, usually they come in. But honestly, anything like below like SVP, most people are not spending the money to fly someone in for an interview if they don't live local. Don't you agree?
Well, good luck. You might be getting someone in some other country who's not who you think they are. Good luck.
Do you think people are catfishing for job
Oh,
interviews?
100%. They are, absolutely. There's been stories on this.
Like people pretend to be someone else to get the job?
Yeah, like spies from like North Korea, like getting jobs where they never meet anyone in person, and they go and steal the company's data. It's awful.
Seriously?
Yeah. But I want to go back to something you said earlier, which is like companies being murky about AI use. Like companies absolutely should be clear. I mean, I've been saying this for years now. Like you need policies, you need constant guidance to your employees on how they should use AI.
You should be looking at your company's AI policy, honestly, once a month at this point.
Yeah.
Because that's how quickly it's changing. This isn't something that you're like, all right, we have our policy for fire drills for the last 10 years and we'll have this for 10 years. No, it's changing nonstop. And, as I've told you, I've gone all in on ChatGPT. Like I've got like a pro account. I have like a team account now with somebody I collaborate with a lot. But I guess Sam Altman is getting a little worried about how good Gemini is getting and sent out a code red email to his staff.
Yeah. And it turns out you're a little obsessed with Sam Altman.
I am not. What?
That's what I heard. I don't know.
No,
That's the
I'm
word on the
obsessed.
street.
When I saw that he is investing in a rocket company, I'm just like, why?
That
Why
set you off
is
in
it
the
just
wrong direction.
white billionaire boys building rockets? Like, I don't know. I guess
Something about space.
being the final frontier.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe space is sexy. I don't know. Who knows?
Like Flash Gordon or Barbarella.
Yeah, or maybe it's a place for like losers. Who knows? Could be either.
Or maybe men just like large projectiles.
Oh yeah, I thought you were gonna lead with something like that. I'm glad it took you a couple prompts to get there.
Yeah.
Laura and GPT needed 3 prompts to get to the rocket penis joke.
You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming.
Oh my god, I really need to work on my prompting skills. Yes, code red, because I think one of the really interesting things in the reporting on AI, which is relentless, is this like weekly declaration of which company has like won the race, And so Google put out a great model, and by all accounts, their user downloads are increasing, the stock price is increasing, all these things, but like we're not anywhere near the end of the development of these.
It's going to keep going like this, I would imagine.
Right. So what's to say like a month later there's not another one that's great. But ChatGPT, they're all hands on deck. Code red, which I assumed from the 996 and 100-hour work weeks and whatever they were already.
Yeah.
But if this was a way to just send out a message to the world of like, hey, we're on it, don't forget about us. Like, okay, fine, we got the memo. Great. Good luck.
I have such an allergy to the CEO panic moment of like, work harder. Like,
you don't like that? You don't like that messaging?
I don't think that is the best internal messaging. Right. I mean, in December, I don't know. But also, ChatGPT, it's this month that they're coming out with the adult version, right?
The adult version? What the hell is that?
Just what you think it's going to be.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Like OnlyFans plus
Yikes.
ChatGPT.
You don't need this.
Don't sue me. That's not really what it's going to be intimate and erotic conversations.
Well, yeah. I think actually what we need is more like AI ethics and more AI boundaries. And one of the other stories this week was, this push to not allow states to regulate AI, pass laws regulating AI. Yeah. And I guess I understand that on one level, like having 50 different AI regulations is going to be difficult to deal with. But at the same time, the federal government's not doing anything. And the answer is not to have no one do anything. So
it's amazing to me when this government decides to be laissez-faire and when they decide not to be. Like, on one end, they're like, yeah, figure out the AI. And then on the other side, they're like, why did you hire that person to like random companies? Or, getting involved in hiring decisions at random companies, buying parts of companies. it's not consistent.
Well, if you follow the EEOC on LinkedIn, their big priority right now is anti-American discrimination enforcement. So,
Which is
like this allegedly rampant discrimination against American job applicants. No
this
one's ever come
seems
to
like
me
it
with
could
that
be
claim.
almost as big a problem as those poor white people in South Africa.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Wow.
All right. Final
All right.
topic, also LinkedIn related.
Yes. Okay. You tell the story about your cousin.
Well,
What happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's something it's obviously not a new problem, but LinkedIn is a very powerful tool to obviously promote yourself, your company, what you're doing, this podcast, etc. And the question is, how much is too much on LinkedIn, and particularly for those who are employed at a company and who have very visible roles and like to go to conferences and like to meet with clients, etc. And I think there's different answers here. And I recently heard about, a tale of someone who lost a job because their company felt they were too much of a self-promoter on LinkedIn and not enough about the company, that their posts were just about themselves and that their first priority wasn't their job, blah, blah, blah. And, to me,
Your first priority should never be your job. It should always be you.
yeah, I'm probably the wrong person to ask about that because right now I feel like loyalty to companies is at an all-time low because guess what? Companies' loyalty to employees is at an all-time low. And so I think it's actually unreasonable to take that position, and terminating someone over it sort of like reinforces the point. Like, you need to build your brand and be ready for these things to happen because companies I could tell you right now, the roster of like talented people who are just losing their jobs out of nowhere because of company politics or gender issues, whatever, like is crazier than ever.
Are people just looking for any excuse to cut anyone who makes a lot of money who is not an AI strategist, basically?
No. I think there's years of like, I would just say the headline is kind of like bad behavior is back, corporate loyalty is gone, and there's a lot of and there's no check on this behavior. So we were talking about the government. There's no regulation. Okay, There's no check on the behavior. You don't have to report gender statistics and pay equity statistics to the federal government anymore. That used to be actually a big check on behavior.
And I guess it's hard to complain about hostility in the workplace when, the president is calling people piggy in the workplace.
Well, I mean, he's said a lot worse, and it's pretty disgusting. And but I would say companies are feeling freer to take decisions that they maybe wouldn't have taken 2-3 years ago. And
that's interesting.
And so I actually think it's more important than ever to build your own brand and be prepared for a moment like that because it could happen to anyone. If your name's not on the door, it could happen to you at any time.
Yes.
Or you don't have a great contract that your lawyer negotiated for you.
There you go.
To protect you from
it is a good idea though,
events.
To look how the senior people in your company represent themselves on social media. I do think that is wise. Certainly in your first 2 years someplace. If you are not at a company where people are kind of flashy about their accomplishments on social media, find another way to get attention on social media. Like you don't want to be the pointiest stick. That's not a good analogy.
I think that's good advice. And I would also say, look, I'm not advocating for employees to be able to say whatever they want, and I'm just saying, like, you shouldn't take that approach. As you say, you should take an appropriate approach. One is that's appropriate for your company culture, one that's appropriate for your specific job duties, and also one that's appropriate for your own brand.
Yeah.
However, I think it's unreasonable for companies in 2025, almost 26, to say someone shouldn't have a presence on LinkedIn, a corporate presence, an individual presence on LinkedIn. Like, that's just unreasonable.
Yes.
And by the way, I know people who do it really well, who thread the needle really, really well. Some of them listen to this podcast.
Who are people
And
that do it great? Like, let's name some names that people should look at what they do and learn.
I don't want to maybe get them in trouble, but there are people who do it well.
Yeah.
And they go to conferences and they tag clients and sponsors and whatever, and everyone feels good about it, and it's very like entertaining and it's very consistent.
One thing to really be careful about, especially earlier in your career, do not take credit for things that you didn't do on social media.
Oh well, yeah,
Like,
obviously.
don't be like, I ran this thing, and you were actually the assistant. No.
Yeah.
Someone will see that.
That's a bad move.
Yeah. And it will, that kind of thing gets around too. Like, people talk.
Right.
And
No one likes that behavior. I don't like it. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So that's
Heroes
our
and
advice,
zeros?
okay?
Yeah.
All right.
That's our advice.
Yeah.
Have your own brand, but watch what other people at the company are doing and only take credit for stuff you did. Boom.
Be
And
reasonable. It works.
this should be obvious, but let's say your company is a 5-day-a-week company. Don't have a bunch of LinkedIn posts about how coming back to the office is bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
like you should have your own personality and opinions, but if you post opinions that are antithetical to your company's policies, they have every reason to be annoyed.
Yeah, that's a bad look for sure. I mean, and that goes for all the people who like also do the TikTok videos, like making fun of their colleagues or after they get fired, bashing their company. I mean, it's just that's not going to be helpful to you at all. Don't do it.
Don't do it. All right, heroes and
All right.
zeros.
Oh, okay.
Wait,
So what are we doing? Zeros? You want to
Zeros
start with
first.
zeros? Okay. Well, sadly, there was a lot of candidates for zeros this week. I will keep it, podcast related, and I will say my zero is Verizon, the company, and for the reason that I just discussed, they announced the week before Thanksgiving that they're laying off 14,000 employees. Now, there used to be a time where companies
And you don't think that's AI related?
No, I don't. But I'm not saying you can't lay off employees. That's not what I'm saying. But like, there used to be a time where companies had
Usually
a
it's
little bit of
Thanksgiving
decency.
for the rest of the year. The week before Thanksgiving was always game.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't. You just
First
ruined
and Gun Day, if you
14,000.
made it to Thanksgiving, you knew you were fine for the rest
You
of the
just
year.
ruined 14,000 Thanksgivings.
Yeah.
This whole treating employees like, they're not humans. I'm not for it. I believe companies have a responsibility to society, to their employees. And if you want loyalty from employees, you gotta reciprocate. So Verizon, and also like they put out press at the same time about how their CEO is like, master of jujitsu, whatever, and he's so cool and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I'm sure those 14,000 people really give a shit about your jujitsu skills. So that's my zero. Who's yours?
It's a little bit mixed, but I am sure that you were fascinated, as I was this week, by the Chanel show in the Bowery
Oh, wow, yeah.
subway station 2 days
Right,
ago.
right.
On one hand, I liked it because it was showing off New York, which I always love. On the other hand, all I could think about was like having to be at that, and like you're like all dressed up and you're like walking, you're like sitting on all on like the subway platform, and I don't know. And does it go with Chanel? That seems sort of like people are walking, like showing off like $10,000 suits in the subway. There was something that felt a little distasteful and let them eat cake about it to me.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's interesting.
And I kept coming back to looking at pictures, being like, why am I stuck on this? And I was like, it's just, most people taking the subway are not wearing $10,000 suits, which I'm not again. I love fancy clothes and when I can buy them. But there was just something about that juxtaposition that I was like,
yeah, well, I mean, it worked in that you've been thinking about it and now you're talking about it. So
yes, and I'm so much more likely to buy a $10,000
it worked there,
suit.
and a lot of people were talking about it for sure. And I don't know if Chanel needs much help with sales. They always seem to be sold out of everything. But look, New York is booming. Maybe they couldn't find a space to do the show. They had to do it down there because everything else is freaking full.
I don't think that's it.
Yeah, that's my theory.
I don't think that's it.
I thought it was
They
fun.
were like,
There's nothing wrong with it. Come on. I thought you were going to say you were worried like a rat was going to run across the show or something.
that would have been funny.
Yeah.
No. All right, heroes.
Who's your hero?
Friendship at work is my hero.
Oh God, here we go again.
One of the companies I advise sometimes, Synopsys, Cablefax, they're like a TV streaming video trade site newsletter.
Yep.
And they have an annual Top Women in Media that I help them program or book people for. And there's always like one big sparkly prize. And they gave it to Sarah Sidner and Kate Baldwin, who co-host along with a third CNN Mornings, and they host the show together every morning. And they're not like we spend all our time together or like joined at the hip, but they're real friends. And it was so nice seeing them like come up together to kind of accept this award and talk about how having people you can count on matters at work. And Sarah Sidner has been very public about her battle with breast cancer. And she talked a lot about how having people that she knew she could count on around her made a huge difference kind of going through that. So, yay, Sarah Sidner and Kate Baldwin, but also friendships at work, like having your person at work that you know has your back is a good thing.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice.
See?
Nicely done.
Yeah. And you? Is yours also?
Yeah, of course. Mine is the premiere release of the Merrily We Roll Along movie tomorrow, which is
Were you an investor in that?
I am. I've been an investor in the show, and now the movie. I was at the premiere the other night.
Was it good?
It's amazing. I mean, it was an amazing show that was extended twice and profitable. And Jonathan Groff won a Tony Award, and it's just amazing production. And the capture, it's almost like a totally new production. I mean, it's really pretty wild. It's not like the one that was done on Hamilton where they just filmed
right. But Rent
play.
was like that. Did you see the movie version of Rent that came out
I did. Yeah.
20 years ago now?
So it's really good. Go see it. It's going to be in theaters starting this weekend. There's actually a ton of great movies
I
out.
want to see it.
Go see that
Oh
one.
my God. You know who the winner is? Aliens. Aliens are winning right now because both Peter and I, over Thanksgiving, our families turned on the age of disclosure, which is all about the government covering up the fact that there are aliens. And it is so funny that we both watched it over Thanksgiving. Who else?
Yeah. I honestly, I was in disbelief. I thought an alien had taken over the remote control when the football game was turned off to put on this documentary about aliens, which was a very well done documentary.
Very interesting. My cousin, who was a believer, had me almost believing by the end.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty wild.
When you turn out to be an alien, I will not be surprised.
I am not an alien. I have not had an encounter with an alien. I've not seen a alien spacecraft that has these sudden acceleration and other lateral movement.
What are they called? The Tic Tac. The Tic Tac.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I did enjoy this beer, though, as a human. It was good.
You brought that down.
Yeah.
Nicely done.
Easy. Smooth. Guinness is smooth. So.
It's so heavy. My first job out of college was at Good Morning America. And there was a bar on the Upper West Side, the Emerald Inn. You remember that place? That we would all go to after work. And all of the old news guys who I wanted to like sit and listen to their stories would either get Guinness or Scotch. And that was
like 9 o'clock in the morning after Good Morning America?
No, like normal time. But
right.
That is how I learned how to be a Scotch drinker because I discovered that Guinness was not for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was fun. And we're back on our schedule. So great. Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening. Please subscribe, share.
Thank you, Sadie Rahbar, for producing.
Thank you, Sadie. And we'll see you all next week.
Have a good December. See you next week.
Yeah. Take care.